At 6, relaxing the borders in England and Scotland. From next week, double jab tourists from the EU and the United States won't have to quarantine on arrival. The changes come into effect in the early hours of Monday morning. It's hoped it'll give a much-needed boost to British tourism and allow friends and families to be reunited at last.
Looking forward to it. You know, just a few short trips to the UK. We're so close here in Zurich, but it's so far when you know you have to quarantine.
But the changes don't apply to travellers arriving from France for now, after it was classed as Amber Plus. We'll have all the details also tonight.
This is wonderful. Duncan Scott, can you get the world record? It's gold to Great Britain. Gold.
More gold for Team GB in Tokyo in the 200 metres freestyle relay as they narrowly missed the world record. But Charlotte Dujardin does make history as she becomes Britain's most decorated female Olympian of all time after winning a 6th medal. Trying to provide more life opportunities for disabled people, the government unveiled 100 pledges, but campaigners say it doesn't go far enough. And how the slate landscape of northwest Wales has joined the likes of the Grand Canyon and Egypt's pyramids as a UNESCO World Heritage Site.
And coming up on the BBC News Channel, heartbreak for the rowers in the men's fours. A disastrous final for Britain sees them miss a medal and almost crash in Tokyo.
Good evening and welcome to the BBC News at 6. From Monday, England and Scotland's COVID border controls will be significantly relaxed as people who have without having to quarantine. Under 18s will be exempt as well. International cruise ships will also be allowed to operate again after being shut down in March last year. It's all a much-needed boost for businesses and the travel industry, which has been losing billions of pounds since the start of the pandemic. The Transport Secretary, Grant Shapps, said the new rules will apply to all travellers from the United States, the European Union, as well as Norway and Switzerland. But France, for now, is not included after being classed as Amber Plus. Passengers will need to have been fully vaccinated in America or the EU. Travellers will still need a test before setting off and another test 2 days after arrival. Wales and Northern Ireland have yet to decide whether to follow suit. Meanwhile, the government says it will review again England's traffic light system for countries around the world, including France, at the end of next week. Our transport correspondent Caroline Davis reports.
Few come for the weather. The UK's international tourists have mostly kept away with quarantine rules, but perhaps after months, there's some sunshine behind the clouds.
Here we are in the middle of Westminster.
Kate Anderville has led tours for over 40 years, but her last was at the end of February 2020.
I've had no work at all, in common with pretty much all my colleagues, especially the language guides from Europe. It's just collapsed. It's certainly a step in the right direction. I doubt whether it will make much difference now for this year.
Pre-pandemic, 40% of the Gorings' guests were American, but city hotels aren't the only businesses dependent on international visitors. Why is it necessary to have international travel, not just do things online?
The truth is that in business, as in life, the personal connections that we make around the meetings that we have are absolutely crucial at building goodwill, understanding, empathy, and all of these things are part of what makes businesses successful.
There was news for cruising too. Ships will be able to set sail for international trips for the first time since March 2020. England and Scotland will follow this policy. Wales and Northern Ireland are yet to say whether they'll follow too. Labour has said that it's worried that there's a robust system in place to be able to verify vaccine passports.
We've got real concerns because there doesn't seem to be a system in place yet for an international vaccine passport, which the government said that they were going to bring forward. Each individual US state does things differently. They don't have a national health service that has a vaccine programme like we do with the certifications.
If the hope was to help tourism and trade, with much of Europe already open to international travel, has the government acted too late?
other countries have had to catch up with the speed of our own vaccination programs to make this a meaningful approach. So part of it's just waiting for other countries. And partly, of course, we wanted to check that our own approach to allowing people who've been vaccinated in the UK to go away and then come back again, that was all working. We'll always put the security of the country first.
But for many separated from family and friends, today's news makes a big difference. Janet lives in Switzerland but hasn't been back to the UK for 18 months.
Now it's like, yeah, we can all go and see the people that we've only been talking to on Zoom. We're so close here in Zurich, but it's so far when you have to quarantine.
The government say they're still looking at what happens for those jabbed in the rest of the world. The travel industry hope today's announcement is clearing a path forward. Caroline Davis, BBC News.
Let's talk to our political correspondent Alex Forsyth, who joins us now from Westminster. So a big shift on opening up the borders, but also some significant exemptions.
Yeah, well, the government's been under significant pressure from the travel and tourism industry for some time, so perhaps it's no surprise that this has been widely welcomed by the sector, not least, of course, because some EU countries had already started to open up to US travellers. But this is by no means a travel free-for-all. It's still a complex picture. There are still restrictions on travellers coming into the UK from France. And while those who've had double vaccinations in the US can now travel to England and Scotland without quarantining, it doesn't work the other way. Despite the government's efforts to get some sort of agreement, US borders still remain closed to most UK travellers. Nonetheless, the government has decided to press ahead with this easing of restrictions. And I think in large part that is down to the success of the vaccine programme and a growing sense in government that has to bring some benefits, particularly when it comes to opening up the economy and getting it moving. Of course, that comes with concern for many people. Outwardly, ministers are still keen to stress the road ahead is unpredictable, the course of the virus is uncertain, things could get bumpy, it's too early to get too optimistic. But inwardly, you do get the sense that perhaps, just perhaps, there is a growing sense of confidence and a great deal of hope about the way forward.
Alex, thank you. Well, the number of daily coronavirus cases has risen for the first time in a week. The latest government figures show there were just over 27,734 new cases in the latest 24-hour period, which means on average there were 30,494 per day in the past week. 91 deaths were recorded in the last 24 hours, meaning on average 71 deaths were recorded per day in the last week. The number of people in hospital with COVID continues to rise. There are now more than 6,000 for the first time since March the 18th. More than 88% of UK adults have now had their first jab, and more than 71% are now fully vaccinated. To the Olympics now, and there has been more gold for Great Britain in Tokyo. Team GB now has 5 gold, 6 silver and 5 bronze medals, with Tom Dean becoming the first male British swimmer to win more than 1 gold medal at a single games in 113 years. He helped Team GB to victory in the 4x200 metres freestyle relay, an extraordinary swim. They were just 0.03 seconds off the world record time. And in rowing, there was a silver medal for Britain in the men's quadruple sculls, where the team held off a late charge from Australia and Poland. From Tokyo, here's our sports editor, Dan Roan, and a warning his report contains flashing images.
Gold medalists and Olympic champions, Great Britain.
Rise and shine. They're the golden images Britain's been waking up to all week. This, the third triumph in as many days for Team GB's swimmers in Tokyo.
James Guy could get a gold medal.
After 2 individual golds, today it was a team effort in the men's 4x200 metre freestyle relay.
Well, this is absolutely brilliant from Team Great Britain. They've swam a really good, solid relay. And we've had, right from the start, Tom Dean leading them off, then James Guy, Matt Richards, and this.
By the final leg, the favourites were in control.
Hundredths of a second, can we win our 3rd gold medal of these games? And
after 3 Olympic silvers to his name, Duncan Scott knew a first gold was now in reach. And this time, he was in no mood to finish second.
Good line. This is wonderful. Duncan Scott, can you get the world record? It's gold to Great Britain.
One of the greatest swims in British history. It was all too much for James Guy, another for whom this was a first gold. For Tom Dean, a second in 2 days.
Can't thank you boys enough. From the bottom of my heart there. Yeah, unreal. I train with this man every single day. You said how much it means to us.
James, how much does this mean to you? We can see it, but it's been a long time coming, this gold medal, hasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, the way the last year's been, and as a kid, dreaming of Olympic gold medals is my absolute dream. And to do it finally up to 25 years, it's pretty emotional.
Well, they've only gone and done it yet again. Another day, another gold for Team GB here in the pool. British swimming is emerging as the powerhouse of this team effort here in Tokyo, and not for more than a century have they won 3 golds at the same Olympics. But Britain's medal rush extends well beyond the pool. Success across a range of sports ensuring its best start to a Games in modern times.
Oh, yes, it's brilliant!
Yes. Today here in Tokyo, the man who heads up Team GB told me confidence is now sweeping through the camp.
Some amazing events and performances, from the triathlon to the pool to the taekwondo, just been a sensational set of events. That spreads throughout the team in the village. We're in one block in the village, in one tower block, so that positive energy will definitely reflect throughout the team.
But one sport's finding these games tougher than usual. In rowing, the men's coxless 4 aiming for a 6th successive title, but badly losing their way.
Look at the steering problems of the British. They're coming over. There's going to be a clash.
Britain finishing outside the medals.
I forgot the steering a little bit, and I think that's what cost us. To be honest, cost us the medal.
There were 2 more 4th-place finishes for British crews today, but the tide did turn. Silver in the men's quadruple sculls. A first medal in this event for Team GB at the Olympics. Dan Rowan, BBC News, Tokyo.
Well, Charlotte Dujardin has become Great Britain's most decorated female Olympian of all time, with 6 Olympic medals after winning bronze in the individual dressage. She won 2 golds at London 2012, gold and silver in Rio, and now in Tokyo she has added 2 bronze medals to her record-breaking haul, as our sports correspondent Natalie Perks reports.
When your 9-year reign is over, Dujardin danced straight into the record books.
Come on, Charlotte.
Gio, or Pumpkin to his friends, was incredibly inexperienced. So just how do you teach a horse to dance? With a master trainer and a touch of telepathy.
The relationship that these two have is just phenomenal.
Equine ballet was served for the judges, and the horse who was picked to respond best to the heat of Tokyo came to the boil at the perfect time.
And their work in Tokyo is done.
When the final rider made too many mistakes, the British team could celebrate bronze.
Aficionados of dressage know Dujardin well. She's the most successful British rider in history. But every time the Olympics rolls around, the rest of Britain is reminded just how good the self-titled girl on the dancing horse is.
In London 2012, she and Vallegro stunned the world of dressage with a patriotic routine.
She's going for gold.
Wow. She came away with 2 golds, and in Rio, the perfect pair rode once again to victory. But after 2016, Vallegro retired and she had to say goodbye. Enter Gio. The 10-year-old helped her to a 5th Olympic medal in the team event last night, and today he helped her make history.
Bronze medalist Charlotte Dujardin.
Britain's most successful female Olympian. How does that feel?
I'm a bit speechless, if I'm honest. I mean, it's so surreal to think that I am. I mean, I can't quite believe it. I mean, yeah, I mean, it was quite an honour to be, with Catherine Granger upon the medals anyway. To now have done that, beaten that, I'm a bit lost for words. Hopefully there'll be some more.
I was very conscious it was a borrowed title. Of all people, you sort of feel Charlotte could have the longest career, and because I think she is such a kind of just an incredible rider, and what she can do with horses and different horses means I'd have thought her potential is pretty much limitless.
Remarkably, that performance was the first time horse or rider had performed to that music. In years to come, he'll be a superstar. He's already got one on board, Britain's horse whisperer and her small but mighty Pumpkin. Natalie Perks, BBC News, Tokyo.
Well, all that success, but there was disappointment elsewhere at the Games. In the men's rugby sevens, Britain out on bronze after a 17-12 defeat to Argentina, finishing just off the podium in 4th place. And in tennis, Andy Murray's bid for a 3rd Olympic gold is over. He and Joe Salisbury lost in the men's double quarter-finals to the Croatian duo Marin Cilic and Ivan Dodig in 3 sets. Murray said after competing in his 4th Olympic Games, if this was the end of his Olympic journey, he wanted to thank Team GB for giving him some of the best memories of his life. Meanwhile, a terrible day for the Norwegian men's lightweight double sculls, who capsized with only 500 metres to go in their semi-final. The pair, who were bronze medalists at the 2016 Rio Olympic Games, were in 2nd place when they tipped over and had to be rescued by the lifeguard. But they did get back in and finish. The American gymnast Simone Biles has pulled out of a 2nd event at the Tokyo Olympics. She will now miss tomorrow's individual all-around final, in which she's the defending champion, after saying she needs to focus on her mental health. Yesterday, she pulled out of the team event. The International Olympic Committee says it has huge respect and support for her decision. Here's our sports correspondent, Laura Scott.
The smile says it all. She loves to perform.
Simone Biles rewrote the record books in Rio. She's been the face of a generation of gymnasts.
One last tumble to become Olympic champion.
At times, her phenomenal achievements have given an aura of invincibility. But this week, she's reminded a world that sees her as superhuman, that she is human.
And what a champion!
I say put mental health first, because if you don't, then you're not going to enjoy your sport and you're not going to succeed as much as you want to. So it's okay sometimes to even sit out the big competitions to focus on yourself, because it shows how strong of a competitor and person that you really are.
30-time Olympic and World Championship medalist.
Biles is already the most successful US gymnast of all time. Success in Tokyo seemed a given. But from the off, she looked off.
She really bounced out then.
And after faltering early in yesterday's team final, she pulled out. From leader to cheerleader, she watched as her teammates secured silver and afterwards highlighted the dangers of performing at anything less than 100%.
I didn't want to do something silly out there and get injured, so I thought it was best if these girls took over and did the rest of the job.
Biles won't defend her all-around title tomorrow, and her participation in next week's individual finals is in doubt too. USA Gymnastics said it wholeheartedly supports her decision and applauds her bravery, saying her courage shows why she's a role model for so many.
You need to put yourself first, especially with mental health. That always comes first over everything, and I feel like that's inspired a lot more people, a younger generation coming up.
In 2018, Biles came forward as a survivor of sexual abuse by the jailed former USA Gymnastics doctor Larry Nassar. It made her a role model for more than her sporting accolades.
Simone has been very vocal about everything she's gone through, but at the same time, there's so much more going on in her mind that she doesn't broadcast and that we don't have access to.
Biles arrived in Tokyo hoping for watershed moments using the power of her body. Instead, she is creating them with the power of her voice. Laura Scott, BBC News.
The time is nearly 6:20. Our top story this evening. A much-needed boost for British tourism from next week. Double-jab travellers from the EU and the United States won't have to quarantine on arrival in England and Scotland. But France, for now, is not included. And coming up, a permanent monument in tribute to fallen police officers and staff has been unveiled in Staffordshire.
Coming up in Sports Day on the BBC News Channel, it's emotional for Britain's men in the relay. Victory in the pool means it's the first time in 113 years that Team GB win 3 swimming golds at an Olympics.
100 pledges to tackle the issues that limit the opportunities in life for disabled people. That's what the government has unveiled today. It's called the National Disability Strategy, and it aims to increase the number of accessible homes and adapt older properties. There'll be an audit of mainline railway stations to ensure there's proper access, and a programme will be launched to make it easier for disabled people to change jobs. The government's hailed the £1.6 billion strategy as a once-in-a-generation transformative plan, but charities and campaigners say it doesn't go nearly far enough. Our Disability Affairs correspondent Nikki Fox has this report.
This cycling club in South Manchester is open to people of all abilities. David can do as much as 10 miles a day round this track, but when it comes to doing the things he loves, he struggles.
Public buildings with big steps and you can't find a ramp, so can't do anything, can't be like normal people.
Despite her best efforts, Sue, who runs the club, hasn't even been able to sort an accessible bathroom.
I've got people peeing in a bottle round the corner because they can't get into the toilet here. And after 18 years, I'm still banging on about having proper facilities.
Today's strategy doesn't shy away from highlighting the many barriers millions face every day. It plans to increase the number of accessible homes, as well as supporting disabled people with employment opportunities. Improving health outcomes is another key area. Learning disabilities and autism training will be offered to all health and social care staff, but there are plans for more consultations and audits, including one around public transport, and campaigners are frustrated by the promise of more reports and less action.
I'm really disappointed. This missed opportunity. The Prime Minister promised it would be the most ambitious and transformative disability plan in a generation. Unfortunately, I think an awful lot of disabled people, 14 million of them, are going to see it as a broken promise.
For disabled children like Florence, the strategy has come too late. Her family had to spend £15,000 fighting to get the right school for their 11-year-old daughter, who is autistic, epileptic and has global development delay.
It felt so unfair, it felt so inappropriate to have to fight for something that should be a provision for all kids with special education needs.
The government has admitted the system is failing disabled children like Florence, and it's spending £300 million to improve special educational needs provision.
We have a ministerial champion in every department, so the Department for Education will be held to account. They will be part of that annual report, and they will have that ministerial champion who's making sure that policies across that department and delivery are actually happening.
Any plans to improve disabled people's lives will of course be welcomed, but charities believe the strategy falls short as it doesn't deliver immediate drastic action so that millions of disabled people are no longer held back by barriers in society. Nikki Fox, BBC News.
A deaf woman has won the right to compensation after a judge upheld her complaint about a lack of on-screen sign language interpreters at 2 COVID briefings in England. Katie Rowley took her case to the High Court, arguing that the government had breached its obligations to deaf audiences under equality legislation. Our correspondent Helena Wilkinson can tell us more. Helena.
Well, Sophie, this is a significant case and it highlights really the challenges that many deaf people face when trying to access public information. Now, Katie Rowley sat down to watch 2 COVID briefings in September and October of last year, but she couldn't follow them. The reason there wasn't an interpreter for her to follow, and she said it left her feeling stressed and affected her well-being. Well, that's why she took the Cabinet Office to court, and she said that they had breached the obligations under the Equality Act. Well, today the judge ruled in her favour regarding those 2 COVID briefings, and the judge, Mr Justice Fordman, said that the lack of sign language provision at those 2 data briefings constituted discrimination. He went on to say a failure of inclusion which served to disempower, to frustrate and to marginalise. Well, Katie Rowley says she is feeling emotional after the judgment, but she also says she feels sad that she had to fight on behalf of herself and also on behalf of many others. The Cabinet Office, in response, have said that they are pleased that the court ruled their policy on using on-screen British Sign Language interpreters was lawful during the pandemic, and officials point out that there have been over 170 briefings since the pandemic began, and only 2, they say, have been found to have been unlawful. Miss Rowley will get compensation.
Helena, thank you. Amanda Pritchard will be the next Chief Executive of the NHS in England. She is currently NHS England's Chief Operating Officer. She will replace Sir Simon Stevens and is the first woman in the role. A permanent monument in tribute to fallen police officers and staff has been unveiled at the National Memorial Arboretum. The Prince of Wales and the Prime Minister were among those attending a dedication ceremony at the site in Staffordshire. Phil Mackey reports.
The new monument overlooks a place of national remembrance. The giant doorway, which is slightly ajar, represents the threshold through which officers walk towards danger. The more than 4,000 who have died were remembered at today's dedication ceremony.
I would particularly like to express my profound gratitude for the valour and sacrifice of those who have laid down their lives.
Well, this is an event for the wider police family. The people who haven't got uniforms on there are the children, the parents and the partners of personnel who've lost their lives. Among those taking part was Gillian Wombwell, who was widowed aged 21 when her husband David was shot alongside two colleagues in London in 1966.
For here, with a congregation of police and relatives, was held a funeral service of the three men who were shot dead.
Do not think of me as gone. I am with you still, in each new dawn. Proud. Proud and... Well, I hope he's looking down and saying, about time, this is a nice place to be.
Was it an emotional day?
I tell you what, I sobbed my socks off last night, and I'll probably sob my socks off tonight. Yes, it's an emotional day.
Every rank was represented today, from cadet to chief constable.
This memorial, I think, will tell those that have passed away, of course, in the line of duty, but also those people that want to join the service in the future, to realise that policing is very much valued.
It's somewhere people can come to reflect on the courage of those who've made the ultimate sacrifice. Phil Mackey, BBC News, Staffordshire.
Now, what do the Great Barrier Reef, the canals in Venice and the Galapagos Islands all have in common with the slate landscapes of northwest Wales? Well, the answer is UNESCO World Heritage Site status. The area, including 6 sites in Snowdonia, is now one of 32 UK sites on the prestigious list. Our Wales correspondent, Thomas Morgan, is there for us tonight. Thomas.
This year's list included the tidal flats of Korea, the city of Nice in France and a wine region in Italy. But after 2 decades worth of work, this beautiful slate landscape behind me has been given the prestigious UNESCO World Heritage status, the 4th now in Wales. Now, 6 sites were part of the bid here in northwest Wales, which included several quarries, mills, but also the railway that used to, in the heyday of the Industrial Revolution, take the slate down the mountains to Porthmadog and then shipped all over the world when it was a worldwide leader in slate exports. This jagged, beautiful, but rugged landscape, which stuns one driving through Gwynedd, really, has been given global recognition. Just a warning, my report does contain some flashing images.
20 years in the making, and recognition is finally here. The slate landscape that dominates parts of Snowdonia is now on a prestigious UNESCO World Heritage list that includes the Great Wall of China and Machu Picchu. And the pioneer for this bid was Dr. David Gwynn.
I felt there was something very wonderful here, almost magical. I'm naturally delighted to hear now that after 20 years, our ambitions have been realised.
Few of us can resist the sight of men digging a hole.
It said Wales roofed the world in the 19th century, and in its heyday, the industry here employed close to 20,000.
So why does Welsh slate have such a good name worldwide?
Firstly, it's the best slate in the world. It's one of the more denser slates. It's been proven on roofs for well over 200, 300 years.
For former quarryman Pred Hughes, this area has always been special.
This place could have gone to rack and ruin, forgotten about, you know, more decay than there already is. So maybe this is a pathway to get it back up on its feet, have the recognition. It's just a fantastic news.
Just as the Taj Mahal has for India and the pyramids for Egypt, the hope is that the recognition for the slate mines here in North Wales will also bring an economic boost to the area.
For the locals in Blaenau Ffestiniog, it's tourism, a key employer here, that will hopefully benefit from today's announcement.
in order to get the tourists to stay in Blaenau, we need the investment putting into Blaenau to help businesses get up and running.
For 1800 years, slate has been mined in this silvery, striking and rugged landscape. And now the stone that's roofed buildings across the globe, from Westminster Hall to Melbourne to Rio, has brought an accolade sought world over. Thomas Morgan, BBC News, Llanberis.
Weather now with Ben Rich.
Sophie, summer warmth and sunshine have been in short supply. Rain certainly has not been. Plenty of heavy downpours. See this map from the last few hours lighting up like a Christmas tree with all the lightning strikes, and we've had some more persistent rain across northern Scotland. There is still a Met Office amber warning in force for parts of northern Scotland, with the risk of flooding and disruption through the rest of this evening. That rain in Scotland will tend to sink its way southwards overnight, getting into Northern Ireland as well. For England and Wales, the showers and storms slowly fading. Most places will be dry by tomorrow morning, and a slightly cooler, fresher night than we've been used to recently. So into tomorrow, across the northern half of the UK, Scotland, Northern Ireland, Northern England, we will see a lot of cloud. We'll see some outbreaks of rain at times. But further south in Wales, the Midlands, East Anglia and the South East, a fighting chance of seeing some sunshine and just the odd shower. But then you see this next area of cloud and rain approaching the far southwest by the end of the afternoon. Quite windy out there during tomorrow, and quite cool for the time of year as well. Top temperatures between 16 and 21 degrees. Now, as we head through Thursday night, so tomorrow night, it's all eyes to the southwest. This little area of low pressure is going to bring some very heavy rain for a time across southwest England and South Wales, then pushing eastwards. With that, some unseasonably strong winds. We could see gusts of 40 to 50 miles per hour, maybe even a little stronger in some exposed coastal parts. That wet and blustery weather then pushing eastwards as we head through Friday, tending to clear from East Anglia and the southeast. Drier weather, still with some showers through Friday afternoon. Temperatures still a little disappointing. As we head into the weekend, not as many showers, more dry weather, some spells of sunshine, but feeling pretty cool. Sophie.
Ben, thank you. And that is it from us. Goodbye.